Did you know that over 5 million pounds of candy is produced in the United States each year? And of this number, a sizable portion of it is sour candy. The love for face-twisting sour candy seems almost like a niche, but in reality, sour candy is incredibly popular. One notable candy in particular has made an impact so large that no other candy stands a chance against it. Our sour, sweet, and gone friends have a short yet complicated history. Sour Patch Kids is one of the top 5 most favored sour candies, despite being fairly young in the grand scheme of things. Sour Patch Kids, however, weren't always kids. The colorful kid-shaped candies we know and love today began as soft, chewy Martians, known as Mars Men. In the early 1970s, Frank Galatoli, the mastermind behind Sour Patch Kids, was working as a confectioner at Jarrett International. Frank wanted to capitalize on the space craze that was the early 70s and pitched his idea of creating alien-shaped candies. When Cadbury and the Malico Licorice Company heard about this, they formed the Allen Candy Company in Hamilton, Ontario, to begin producing the candy. As if following the decades of trends, Mars Men was rebranded in 1985 to Sour Patch Kids. The rebrand was likely to capitalize on the growing popularity of Cabbage Patch Kids at the time. Despite the pattern of following such iconic social trends, the name Sour Patch Kids seemed to have stuck, which was relatively fitting when you could make jokes about these candies being the new kids on the block. The original candy mascot was a young blonde boy with his tongue sticking out. The drawing was based on Frank Galatoli's son, Scott. Despite only being around for a few decades, Sour Patch Kids has had many mascots, including the addition of a young girl in 1992. It wasn't until 2010 that a cartoon version of the candy itself took the reins as the mascot. Initially, Sour Patch Kids were not very popular, but after a large marketing push in the late 80s and early 90s that included catchy commercials and sponsorship events, their popularity soared. The popularity of sour candy grew quickly thereafter. The 1970s and 80s were particularly important years for the promotion and growth of all sour candy. There was a large spike in the consumption of face-puckering candy during this time, but their emergence can be traced back to the 1950s. Lemonheads specifically were extremely popular and one of the oldest sour candies still in production today. The love for sour-flavored treats was delayed, but when more and more candies entered the market, confectioners knew it was here to stay. In recognition of their timeless taste, sour candies even have a day dedicated to it on July 18th. Sour Patch Kids did very little to evolve. Originally, the candy was offered in 4 flavors and colors: lime, lemon, peach, and cherry, green, yellow, orange, and red, respectively. In 2013, over 40 years later, blue raspberry was added to the mix. In 2018, a new flavor called Fire was introduced that added a kick of fiery aftertaste to the traditional sour and sweet. Since then, a number of follow-ups have been introduced in varying forms. Ice cream, cereal, and even chewing gum have been added to the roster. Sour Patch Kids truly have a colorful history, but how are these famous tart jellies made? Nearly every soft, jelly-like candy starts off with a mixture of gelatin, corn syrup, sugar, and water. These ingredients are blended by machines that perform the measurements, mixing, and heating of the mixture. When the machine begins, one component is added at a time before a valve closes and another opens, dispensing another ingredient. The next step is to heat the mixture to 240 degrees Fahrenheit. A majority of all soft candies are heated and cooled to exact temperatures at exact times, ensuring the product remains the same throughout the production cycle. This is because the sugar within the mixture is affected by the heating and cooling process. An undesired hardness or softness in the candy is caused by too high of a temperature or too sudden of a cooling. Once the mixture has been heated, the hot liquid is then poured into starch molds and allowed to cool overnight inside a vacuum. This machine removes excess moisture from the candies so that they may set in the molds properly. After the heating and cooling process is over, the next step is to add color to the candies. This is done by yet another machine called a CFA, or Color Flavor Additive Deck. This process is extremely important because it pairs the color of the candy with its associated flavor. This is how the candy manufacturer makes sure that every time you bite into the green Sour Patch Kid, it tastes like lime. The sour taste that we all know and love comes in during the final step of production. Sour Patch Kids are coated with inverted sugar and sour sugar. The tartaric and citric acids are what give Sour Patch Kids the sudden sharp burst of tartness. Once the candies have rolled in the tart sugar, they are dispensed onto a candy roller belt where they are then measured out and packaged accordingly. Mondelez International acquired Allen Candy Company in the late 1990s and has been handling the production of Sour Patch Kids ever since. Other familiar brands like Swedish Fish and Green and Blacks are also made alongside Sour Patch Kids. Much like Sour Patch Kids, Swedish Fish are created using a similar process, with the only changes being their mold shape, coloring, and flavoring. Sour Patch Kids has since become the #1 soft candy in the United States and is #3 in overall favored treats. Sour candy hasn't been around nearly as long as chocolate has, but the familiar adoration for the small candies is just the same. It's safe to say that the tarty goodness is here to stay. If you liked learning about how Sour Patch Kids are made, then be sure to like and subscribe for more videos just like this one.